What's up, everybody? Welcome to Omnic Lab. This week, we're going to be focusing on strategy, as we do always. But this week, we're going to be talking a little bit more on the end of shot calling. And this week, we also brought in somebody who's an expert in this. And we have my man, the myth, the legend, the Cuddles, Baemax. What's up, Baemax?
Hey, how's it going?
So for those unaware, that is a Big Hero 10 reference for the unengaged
6.
or people who don't have children in this era.
Big Hero 6.
Big Hero 6. Yeah, Big Hero 10. What am I saying? There's an anime called Brave 10, so I got that mixed up. But we also have Andres coming in from Atlanta. What's up?
What's up? What's up? Excited to be here. This is an exciting week. Overwatch League has started. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yep, and I'm your host, Rob May, coming in from the Morning of the Rising Sun area in Japan. It's a little chilly, much more cold than, your boy in Phoenix out there. So, man, we got a little bit of an interesting setup here today. We tried doing some timestamps last week. I think we're going to try to do some timestamps this week. But at the top of the show, we're going to do a quick update. We're going to do special thanks for our patrons, and we're going to dive into some Overwatch League first impressions and strategic things of note that are really cool, the stuff that were kind of motivating us to go back into ranked, and then we'll get into the main topic and hopefully get you a timestamp for that in post. So let's start off at the top of the show, and then we'll get into talking with our guests here and interviewing Baemax a little bit before we get started. So we got the game night is still looking, it's kind of up in the air right now. I believe we are looking at around the 26th of January is kind of our target day. But when we lock it in with our mods and admins, we'll let you know first in the Discord and second on social media. And then last will probably be the show, depending on when that day is. But that's the target. If you guys want to find the show on Android or on iOS, we recommend the Overcast Pocket Cast app. This is the last week I'll be mentioning it. And then if you guys want to check up on the latest meta pick rates and what have you, you can head over to omnicmeta.com. Our official partner is our boy Switch. He's still kind of on hiatus. He just landed back in the States only about a week ago or under a week ago. So he's finishing up compiling some data, and he will get you some things coming soon. We also have the sister show. We have the Owl Recap. We've linked all of our Twitter and main feed that you guys can go check out there. I know they released an episode yesterday, and they've had some great interviews this last week, and so hyped that, Justin's able to go in and out as he can over there in where is this new arena? This is not in Irvine.
Burbank.
It's in Burbank. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, Justin's driving all over the place for his day job and then for his night job of Owl Recap, I guess. So, we also have our official sponsor of the show. We have Top Score Solutions. He says that he would like to tell you about a 2018 new sponsor. So a longtime patron, I Need Peeling, also known for this tag on Reddit and Discord, is offering free business consulting in the esports field. If you're an aspiring coach starting a new team or developing an app service, or maybe you just want to boost up your subscriber base and work in esports, you can find his website at topscoresolutions.com or find him on Twitter at topscoreesports. You can even join his Discord by finding it on his website. And Ben has a master's degree in sports management and an MBA in the same category. And he has a lot of business marketing experience to maybe help you with some consulting and coaching on that respect. And his services are completely free as long as the demand stays manageable. We also have a special thanks for our I can't even talk today. Diamond sponsors. We have Chris DePlaya, Good Apollo, Great Root Bear, Kip, Lysum, Magic, Matt R, Never Clutch, Ricky Ticky, Tragic Zach. Thank you guys for your sponsorships as well. We have one new patron, Isabella R. Welcome to the club. Thanks for jumping in and being that much more of a scientist to help us out. We appreciate all of the people on Patreon. Well, more about that at the end of the show. We'll mention it, but Patreon is the #1 way you can support our show financially. Helps us get to BlizzCon. I've been looking at stuff, and I'm still kind of skittish if I'm going to be able to make it this year again. But we'll see. It's an animal to go from Japan to Irvine for 3 days, let me tell you. But let's get into a little bit of an interview here. Now that I've been talking quite a bit, let's kick it over to Andres and Baemax for a quick interview. Who you at? Who you is? New phone. Who this?
Yeah,
Baemax,
tell us a little bit
up?
about yourself, Baemax, so our audience can know who you are and know why you're here.
So I am a Overwatch player to start out. I'm just around 4,200 every season. I dipped a little bit now that all the pros are in the West with me, but still trying to keep the GM.
You stole all the talent over there.
Yeah, exactly. Now everything's over here now. It's nuts. Most importantly, though, I'm the president of ASU Esports. We're a collegiate esports division. We're a test division. So I manage a whole bunch of different esports. I played on the D1 team last semester. No longer. I was the manager and captain for the D1 team, but now I will be managing the D2 team and the D1 team this coming semester. And I also, outside of ASU, I manage a couple different Flight 3, Flight 2 teams, including some contender teams. So I got a lot of experience just watching and playing Overwatch.
Yeah, that's awesome. Baemax actually reached out to me because not only he is doing all this stuff right now, he's also an amazing player. He plays at GM rank around, we said 4,200?
42.
Yeah, 4,200.
That's correct. And not only that, he's a great shot caller, and that's one of the things that he works on the most with the teams that he's working on right now. He tries to make it so that his teams know what is appropriate to be talking about at the moment, what is not appropriate, and he has kind of compiled all these little tips and things that he's learned through experience. And I think that is a very valid topic because it's one that we've visited in the past, but it's one that we haven't really touched in depth. And I think that people have a notion of what they should be communicating, but very often in the latter, you go in and there's just nonsense on comms that is not good for anyone, right? It's more confusing sometimes than helpful. So we're here to hopefully demystify some of those topics and maybe help you do with all that. But before we jump into the whole discussion on that, I do want to take a little bit your opinion on the Overwatch League, because it's an event that we've all been waiting for. And so far, I think it has had an impeccable start. What do you think, though?
I'm so very impressed. I wasn't sure after opening weekend if it was going to be a hit, but I'm so very impressed with what they've done. I love the stadium. I'm super excited. I'll be there for stage 2 or round 2 or whatever they want to call it. I'm going to be there to see it. But I'm just so very impressed. The talent they've developed, all the teams are so close together in ability level. There's not as many smashes as I thought. I thought South Korea was just going to come out and steamroll every team, but it's really been, every single game has been so very impressive. Such a high level.
Just curious, who are you rooting for right now?
Oh, I'm a hardcore Philadelphia fan.
Philly. Oh, it's interesting because we hadn't seen Philly play until yesterday, pretty much, because they didn't get to play on the preseason. But oh boy, did they come to play. What a team. We got to see them play against Houston Outlaws on their debut, and that was a match. If you guys haven't had a chance to catch it, I definitely recommend. If you're a fan of Houston Outlaws, you might be a little disappointed, but regardless of the result, it was still a great match, and the Outlaws still provided like a really, really quality match. What do you think, Rob? Have you had a chance to catch any of the matches?
I've not missed one yet. Oh, I'm sorry. You said Rob.
Rob or Baemax. We'll go back and forth. Don't worry.
Yeah. We'll banter on this one. So I haven't seen every single match, because my school internet has been pretty nasty and I've been teaching, so I've been kind of catching the live. And then last night I was able to watch all of the day 2 things back to back, and try to skip around with some ads so that I didn't have to worry about it too much. So I missed out on all of the breakdown and the analysis portions, but I was able to watch basically the full games as if they were happening like one after another, which is really interesting because you can definitely see more from like I guess you could say like a team strategy perspective.
Yeah.
The teams were definitely like, they definitely came in a little bit more refreshed after those breaks, which I thought was really, really good for scheduling. I thought that was awesome because, you know, some of the teams are able to get, you know, 5-10 minutes to kind of brush off some tilt, kind of get their heads back on straight, you know, get up, walk around, come back, sit down, gear up, and then go back at it. And I think that was really, really smart of the league to give the players a break, especially when they're doing these long, long days where teams are not just playing. You know, these guys are wanting to, you know, get some food. I know that after going to BlizzCon, I'm thinking about all these things, right? Like Andres and I are just like starving, like perpetually all day until the day's over. So I know these guys are hungry. I know that they may be getting a little hangry, if you know what I mean, like angry and hungry at the same time. Sometimes you can't be around your teammates all day. It doesn't really work that well. But anyways, more on the strategic side, Mayhem surprised the living snot out of me. Like these guys are going toe to toe with Spitfire, and they took a map off them. They got really, really close. Like even though it was what was it, like a 4-1 victory, I think, for Spitfire, Mayhem looked really good on a lot of these maps. And it's one thing about Overwatch that's really, really difficult to communicate when you're just looking at that scores. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh well, they just got dumpstered, or they lost like 3-1.
Absolutely. No, and I totally agree with you. And like what you're saying, Baemax, is all the teams seem so close together because even like you said, Spitfire won against Mayhem. I think it was a 3-1 actually, which on paper it looks horrible, right? Like, oh wow, they got crushed. You know, 3-1, they didn't have a chance. But in reality, the matches were super back and forth, and they were really like hanging out in there. It was really fun to watch. And so far, I think that it's some of the best Overwatch that we've seen so far. Definitely, all of the matches are super interesting. None of them are as newsfest. None of them seem like really unprepared. I would say that the weakest team right now seems to be Shanghai. So far, they haven't really like proven themselves out there. But even them still have had a few plays here and there. They're like, oh, okay, their plays are cool. But yeah, like you said, no team is kind of like getting too left behind.
No.
Carp, did you have any like main highlights you wanted to talk about, especially with Philadelphia, or any other matches that you saw that you were like real shining strategic moments for you?
Well, I would definitely say that what I was really kind of concerned about is a lot of the teams picked up a lot of DPS players, like especially the California teams. They picked up very heavy DPS lineups. I would say like the tank line has, I think, been lacking. Like it's either been a DPS show or a support show for pretty much every single team. And I think Philadelphia came out last night, and one of the best reasons they were having such an easy time going through that team was that they had a really, really strong tank line.
It's interesting that you mentioned that too, because honestly, if you look at another team that has a really strong support and tank lineup, Seoul Dynasty, and they're arguably the strongest team in the league right now. And their DPS plays are great. Don't get me wrong. They're top notch. You can expect them to do anything that any other DPS is doing in the league. But their supports and their tanks definitely rise to the top. Like they stand out compared to some of the other supports. Like Ryo Zhenghang, that guy is just on another level of good. And you have Toby, which he's just such a reliable Mercy. You can just trust Toby. I would love to play with Toby on my team because I know that guy has my back, man. With his little happy face all the time, dude, that guy's awesome.
Yeah, Ryo Zhenghang on Ana, arguably the worst hero strength-wise right now, is dumpstering anybody. He won in the preseason. He won 60% of his 1v1s.
Mm-hmm.
That's an insane statistic.
There's also some interesting things that you brought up because of like having, you know, lacking or strong tank lines, regardless of how good those players are. I feel like a lot of the plays, especially within more of a mobile ideal composition here, you know, people that are running Winston Diva or people that are running, you know, Diva Reinhardt, I've been seeing that a little bit. And then on some control points, they're running, you know, their Zarya specialists or their flex specialists that can play Zarya in a lot of cases. And that has honestly been make or break on a lot of the games. I mean, you go to the Houston Outlaws versus Philadelphia Fusion. That game was won and lost on the shoulders of Poco and Fraggy. Like, those guys have just absolutely made plays that are not just aggressive plays. Like, they're extremely calculated. And they're able to maneuver around and protect and peel better than most of the other teams in that moment. And so you don't have to be the best tank in the league. You just have to be better than the enemy team at that moment. Absolutely. And so it's kind of the same mentality when you want to bring that into ranked. You don't have to be the best tank in the world to get the GM. You just have to be better than the guy on the other end every time, right? So
wise words.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like, I think people like Mano for Excelsior have just been like, because Libero wasn't doing quite enough in a couple of DPS roles, and I'm just like, or DPS games, and I'm just like, I don't think this is Libero's deal. I think, like, they're just not peeling for him. You know, they're not giving him space. They're not pushing people off. They're not giving him room to, you know, to work on the Widow. And but yeah, Baemax, what you want to comment some more on that?
I would say we talked about before the show. We were talking about Taimu on Roadhog, and one of the reasons that game was so high scoring is because regardless of who it was, whether it was Taimu or it was the Roadhog and the other team, each one of them was starting every single fight with a hook and a kill. Like that makes it so much easier for your DPS when you're already 1 up to be starting every single fight like that. I mean, that's 100% your tanks that's winning the game and not your DPS, even though they're cleaning up.
And it was both tanks. It was not just Taimu on the Roadhog getting the hooks.
Right.
It was Orisa throwing the pull, then Taimu throwing the hook at the pole where it was gonna explode. And if you guys go and watch the Fuel versus Soul Dynasty game on Junkertown, literally not 6 seconds into the map, Orisa throws her pull, Taimu just blindly throws the hook, and sure enough, pulls in a Winston, which dies immediately because the whole entire team focuses this Winston. And this is like first 6 seconds. This Winston wasn't even overcommitting. He was like behind a corner, like completely hidden from view.
That's great shot calling.
Yeah, that absolutely. And just great teamwork from like the tank and the front line. But anyway, guys, if you guys haven't had a chance to check out the league, and I know most of you have probably seen at least one of the games, because based on the viewership that's been happening on Twitch and other mediums, this thing has been huge. And I know that some of you have been super interested in at least checking it out. But if you haven't, you have to check it out. At least give it one chance. Check out a few games. Look at the players. Look at the plays. There's so much to learn. I don't know. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, there's one more thing that I'd like to highlight on this together before we move on, is the value of Zenyatta. Because there are very few games you're watching today or the previous week, I guess, depending on when you're listening to this episode, that doesn't involve Zenyatta in the team of 6. And when Zenyatta is not involved, he's subbed for either another DPS, a Moira, or an Ana. And genuinely, when you're picking Ana, you're picking it for a different purpose. Like, you're not picking it for the damage, you're not picking it for the healing, you're picking her for the grenade and for the sleep dart. And you're picking Moira because you can get your ultimate ridiculously fast on especially control maps, or even I've seen her on some of the payload maps on which people think that she's bad. But like, she's just picked because she can just do insane amounts of damage and she's really mobile, whereas Zenyatta's not. So you're picking Moira for mobility, and Lucio I've even seen a couple times just on 2CP and control. Yeah, and yeah.
Just well.
Basically, he's just there because you just got to get the shields and you just want to win the fight. And it essentially does something similar to what Zenyatta does, but you're giving your team mobility instead of more damage. So you have to think about these decisions, I think, not just for Overwatch League and like why they're doing certain things, because I think this overlaps the most with how you guys are framing your games in ranked. You can't always choose your supports. You can't always choose your tanks. But if you play those roles, or you play more of a flex and you can play those roles, these are the targets you want to be looking at in your ranked games to maybe climb, because you're trying to give them, you have to start picking apart in your brain what is going wrong, and then you can switch into these things. So I'm gonna pass it off to you guys, and maybe you can break
Well,
that down a little bit further.
I think that what you said is really right. Because to be honest, with the Overwatch League, this has been the easiest it's ever been to just watch quality games where all of the teams are working at the top level as a team. Like if you really want to see how a strategy truly develops, how a team works together, how they move, maybe the picks that they're making, because sometimes it's not even about switching heroes or anything. If you watch Soul Dynasty, their gameplay sometimes revolves even around keeping the same comp, but just changing the approach, changing the direction of the attack, changing even the priority targets and how they initiate the battle, who initiates the fight. All of this, there's so much to learn from, and I think that is hard to get on the ladder sometimes. Even playing a ton of games on the ladder, you don't get that showmanship of teamwork. So just watching that, and hopefully as more of the community keeps watching this, it's gonna like some of these strategies are gonna become more mainstream, and doing some of these things is gonna become more second nature. So I definitely encourage you to watch all the matches with a strategic eye and try to analyze them and see why they're doing some of these things.
Yeah, definitely. If you were watching the games today in the Junkertown map that went 7-8, so that's 5 different attacks. I know that
Valiant and Fuel.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Fuel ran a different comp every single attack, and Valiant ran 2 different attacks. So I mean, there are so many different strategies that are all amazing and all very, very different from each other that you can run. They run at such a high level. So if you're watching this, you can pick up things even if you don't get the first meta comp that you usually are looking for. Like there are definitely other comps that you can play at a super high level on these maps, and they can all catch people off guard and they can all help you climb. So it's a great thing to be watching.
All right. With that being said, this is a good point to jump into today's guide, shot calling, because I think it'll help out a little bit everyone to become a better teammate and to play better as a team. So let's kick it off with the first part, good shot calling. Let's define what is good shot calling and what makes up of it. I'm gonna throw it to you, Baemax.
So if I was going to define shot calling, I would say it was anything that you could say to your teammates that would give them an advantage in the fight or make the fight easier for you guys to win. So whether that's planning before, targeting during, or making up a new plan afterwards, it's just anything that can make your team have an advantage over the other team in the next fight.
And I really like that description because it's not, shot calling doesn't mean telling your teams what to do. It doesn't mean boss around your teammates, tell them go here, go there. That's not truly shot calling. What shot calling truly
giving
is
information. It's
giving
good information.
What shot calling is hopefully sharing information that will give the edge to your team, that will make them be prepared for situations that otherwise would have been super detrimental for them, or hopefully to coordinate things that otherwise would have been really hard to coordinate just by watching the game.
And so I forwarded this to Ace of Spades. I don't know if you guys knew who that is, but he's probably one of the best shot callers and contenders right now. And I just had him look over it, and he said that this is super good information that we're about to give, but it's important to think about when you're in ladder that these 6 people are just random people. They're not necessarily your teammates. So if you're just barking directions at them or things that they have to do or things that you think that they have to do, I mean, you're not giving good information, and they're just so unlikely to follow anything you're saying, rather than if they think that you guys are working together as a team, like you're throwing things around, bouncing it around. Kind of
absolutely. Because at the end of the day, it's like you said, you're queuing up with probably 6 strangers or 5 other strangers. And at the end of the day, we all have that syndrome where if a stranger comes and tells us what to do, we have kind of like resist authority. Like, well, who the hell are you? And why are you telling me what to do? I know how to play this game, and I want to play the way I want to play it. Well, if you have somebody that is more of providing valuable information or suggesting things that would enhance your team, that's a lot easier to listen to. Let's get into a few examples of what type of information is good to share. All right, Baemax, give it to me, man.
So the first really important one is pretty much the obvious one, but it's telling people the health of people around you. So whether it's you're telling, hey, I need healing, Mercy, I'm in your back left, I need healing, or if it's saying their tracer is half HP, no rewind, she needs to die, or monkey needs to die. It's just giving information about the health of the people around you, because your teammates, they can't always see, especially if they haven't damaged the enemy, can't see the other team's health. So it's really important that you're telling your teammates all the information you can about the HP around you.
I will put a little caveat over here. Um, you don't want to be shouting out anyone's health. Like, you don't want to be saying Winston low when they have taken like a quarter of their HP and they're still at like 3/4. You know what I mean? You want to be selective with this sort of thing. You want to really call out the target that just takes a little bit more damage to focus down, or that person that is like really out of position and it's really easy to focus down, to hopefully get your team to act on that a little sooner. But it's also bad if you're just calling out any target that you just happen to have your cursor on top of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Rob said it earlier when he said that it's useful information. I'm sure that's going to be the theme in a lot of things we talk about today. There's a difference between information and useful information. So like Andre said, like if someone is away from you or away from your team, or you're a tracer on a flank and you're attacking a Zenyatta, but you're nowhere near the rest of your team, and you say Zenyatta low, and everybody on your team looks up and looks around to try to find the Zenyatta, and they're wasting their time doing that, you're giving bad information and you're hurting your team's chance of winning that fight.
Absolutely. Another example you put down here is cooldowns too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we all know that you're like really important cooldowns, the ones that either keep you alive or they keep your teammates alive. Like I put Dash, Zarya bubbles, Diva Matrix, Winston jetpacks, Genji Dash, any of those ultimates that people can use to save their life. When you see the other enemy team uses those, or you see that, or you know that your team doesn't have it, that's when you need to be informing the rest of your team. So for example, if a tracer uses a rewind and she's still in the middle of the fight, you need to tell your teammates that, hey, maybe it's time we jump on her. She doesn't have her life-saving cooldown.
Yeah, and I think that this one is super important, because if you get good at knowing which cooldowns are super vital for the enemy team, let's say that tracer recall, and she recalls in a place where your team can actually capitalize on it, you calling out that, hey, tracer no cooldown, can make people actually be like, oh, this is our chance. Focus her down this time, get rid of her. Well, otherwise, maybe you would have missed the opportunity. If you didn't make that call out, maybe your Winston didn't get to jump on her, or your soldier didn't turn around in time to get a few shots on her, and she actually manages to get away, and then just later comes back and wrecks your Zenyatta or something. And it's like a small little thing that you could have done. Just said, Tracer one hit, for example, or Tracer one for short. A lot of people do that. And if you're a teammate that is paying attention and you know that your teammate is making good call outs, you will search for that tracer and you will try to get that little chip damage in, because sometimes that's all it takes, right? Sometimes killing a person doesn't necessarily have to come with a single person. A soldier, you don't have to full clip a person and helix rocket them. You just gotta get like 2 shots on them. Your Winston maybe gets a couple Tesla cannon ticks, and then maybe your tracer sprinkles a little bit, and boom, the person is dead.
Absolutely. And then the other, so like you said, the other side of that is that your friendly cooldowns, you got to make sure that you're keeping track of those. So like, for example, like if you see your Winston just used his bubble, like you might want to keep an eye on that. If you're another player, make sure that they have a way to escape the fight. So it's not just the enemy cooldowns, but just kind of being cognizant of all the different cooldowns that are going on in the game, especially the ones that save lives, can really help you understand and give you way better shot calls in the game.
Absolutely.
You can be preventative with this too. Like if you can see allies, like for example, since I play a lot of support, I also have a secondary support on a lot of my games. So I can actually help shot call with my other support and say, hey, if you're having trouble, like I was playing this game yesterday with a Zenyatta and I was playing Mercy, and I was like, hey Zen, we're on King's Row, first point, just hug this corner with me. So I have like optimal vision of you. I can make sure you don't die when that inevitable Winston comes in and jumps on both of us. We can just pop each other with heals and move. just like moving together as a unit, and you're not really telling him what to do per se. You're like basically giving them a really, really beneficial scenario, and kind of like guiding them there rather than saying, do this. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, if you stay here, I can do this. And you're just kind of,
Yeah, you're
sometimes
offering the
it takes
opportunity.
right. You're like saying, hey, this is the best scenario where I can give you heals and make sure that we don't die. And there's the same guy that I had some bad shot calls, which I'll mention later, because this is just a really good game for me to use as illustrations. But you can also help them manage their ultimates. You can say, hey, I'm going to use mine. I have more of a coalescence. I'm going to use mine. And then use yours if you hear Genji Blade or Soldier Tac Visor. That's your cue. Even if you're going to die, just die. It's just like, let it happen, because I'll try to keep you up as best I can. Just don't panic.
Yeah,
And,
that is very useful with supports, right? Or if you're Zenyatta, just being like, hey man, I'm gonna save my ultimate for when Genji ultimates. So now your Lucio maybe knows, okay, if Genji uses his ult, I'm not gonna use mine. In any other situation, my Zenyatta is probably not gonna use his ult because he's saving it for the Genji. So I'm gonna use it then. And just that little small communication can go a long way for you not to overlap ults that otherwise would have been a huge waste.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I see, even in higher level competitive games that I'm VOD reviewing. That's one of the things I see the most is supports not working together, not as a unit. So, and that one little bit, that not making sure that you guys don't overlap the support ultimates, can be not just like fight changing, but it's game changing.
It's ult economy.
Yeah, absolutely. That can be 2 fights of your team winning versus only one or none. Let's get to the next one, because I really like the next one. This one is exact information, and this one is almost like a skill you have to develop. And I'm actually kind of trying to get better at this, because it's not as easy as saying it. Guide us through this one.
So exact information is kind of a confusing title, but basically it's saying exactly what is how. I guess it's not that confusing, but it's saying exactly what is happening. So, for example, like a good shot call would be saying the Mercy on the other team is low, but a much better shot call would be saying, hey, Mercy is low and she just used her bounce to go to the back of the point. And so not only does your team know that she's low, they know exactly where to look for her. So they have this exact information that they can use, and instead of taking time to search for her or maybe try to decide what the next plan is to find her, they know exactly where they're going and what they need to do.
And when we say exact information, we don't mean like you have to write a novel about where they at, right? You don't have to be like, Widowmaker is up the left stairs behind the red box inside the little thing. Like, you don't have to get that specific. You can let your teammates fill in the blanks sometimes, but you just have to give him enough information. And this is also why I'm saying this is a skill that you kind of have to develop a little bit. And it requires you playing the game just a little bit. Because let's say you're defending on point A, for example. Your team is usually revolving around that point, and you can use that as a point of reference. So you can say tracers behind the point, and that automatically, usually in people's heads can be, okay, she is on the side of the defender spawn, we should watch out for her. Or if you say tracers flanking the back right side, usually there's only one back right side where she could be coming from in that specific map, for example. So people already kind of know that specific place. So what I'm saying is give specific enough information that people can use their own kind of logic to deduce the rest, and not so much that you're just taking forever to get it across.
Yeah, keep the comms clear.
Yeah, there's something that I wanted to ask Baemax a little bit more on. This one is giving shot calls not based off of your current position, but based off of the map's setup.
Oh, definitely. So Andres touched on it, but you have those non-moving references or very slowly moving references that make it very easy to understand where things are. As you get into higher levels, like if you watch pro streams, like if you watch especially OWL players, like they have words for different locations on all the maps. But like as far as it goes for just ladder shot calling, those things like the spawn or the choke points or the payload, Those are really good things where, you know, like if it's in front of you, it's their side of the payload. If it's behind you, it's behind the payload, kind of things. They give you like a reference for direction wise, so you can, like you said, not write a novel to explain what's happening. Maybe just say the back, and then people will understand that. It becomes pretty easy, but it's training yourself to just say those things with that kind of mentality is the hard part.
Yeah.
Also,
because I know that.
I was gonna say, don't be like me and say tracer right side when you really mean tracer left side. Because
You're
I do
facing the wrong
this
direction, you say
all
right
the
side.
time. I've been trying to get better at it.
Yeah, the exact information and is so critical, because you'll see I have like the gold and the silver and the platinum level players watching all these pro streams are like, oh my gosh, Genji won, and just like they shot them once in the body and they took like not even half their health bar, and it's like, one, they're half health. Don't give me crap information. I'm not gonna go after that Genji. He's gonna kill me.
Yeah, and along those lines, I mean, you say if someone's getting healed by a Mercy and you tell your team she's low and they invest things to kill the not low anymore hero, you're not giving exact information. You're not painting a correct picture of what's happening. So, I mean, that's really important. And if you're lying to your team and you're saying someone's low because you dinked them with a soldier burst, you're not giving people a reliable, and people won't listen to you after that. Yeah. I mean, I know we've all had that situation in ladder where they're like, you're like, this person's low, and then the other person's like, no, they're not. So,
and then it becomes a shout match between the two people instead of good information anymore.
Exactly.
And it's like what you said. If you're doing bad shot calls, eventually you will lose the trust of your team, and nobody will listen to your calls. It's like the boy who cried wolf, right? Like if you keep making erroneous calls, people are just gonna be like, you know what? I'm just gonna make my own calls over here.
They're a lot less patient too. It's kind of like you give them bad information once, they're like, mute. Done.
Let's move on to the next one. Yeah. The next one is don't get distracted, and I'm gonna pass it to you to describe this one.
So I, have the cartoon like picture of someone like running and then turning to look at a dog running, and they turn to look at a squirrel with this one. It's our next point is don't get distracted. So if you're in a fight and you say something or you tell your team you're doing something, do not get distracted and change your mind halfway through the fight when the rest of your team is committing to something. And one of the things that happen all the time is like if you're a tank line and say you're the diva and you're with your Winston, if you say you're gonna dive a McCree or a Zenyatta and you change your mind halfway and just let your monkey dive alone, and he gets flashbanged and fan the hammer and he's dead now, just because you got distracted, you lost that fight for your team. Like even if you changed your mind and you killed somebody, you still just lost your other tank because of your fault. So it's really important that if you say something, you shouldn't change your mind and you don't get distracted right away.
And this one I also like calling it committing to your calls.
Committing would have been better.
If you are going to make a call out, especially one where you are asking for action for your other players, like I'm going to dive the Genji or I'm going to dive the soldier, for example. These are the sort of callouts that require you to commit to them and you to do it very short after you say it, right? You don't want to just say it and then not do anything for a while and then do it way after when your teammates are wondering why you never went. You kind of want to make the call out, act on it, hopefully give your teammates, I don't know, maybe a second or two to kind of like soak it in, then do the call out. Or this can be in many other situations. But the point is, if you do the call out and you change your mind, you risk putting your teammates at risk, right? Like maybe that Lucio was going to follow you. And when you did the call out, he saw the soldier. He was like, okay, that sounds good. He started climbing the walls. And then you never came. And he gets killed by the soldier. That's your fault right there. So commit to those call outs. Or if you're not going to commit and you backtrack, make sure that you communicate that soon after.
You also have to make sure people are going to commit with you. This is something that's really big in some of the games that I played when I was playing with some silver friends and in gold recently, because I dropped out of platinum. So you just say, okay, let's go, 3, 2, 1, jump. And then like you're playing Winston and you're dead. And like everyone's behind you. You're like, why did you jump in? It's like, I said I was going in. And nobody commits with you. And the difference is understanding who's in voice chat before you jump and not just communicating to nothing, because that's happened to me before. And you got to hit the P button who's actually in the chat with you. and see if that's a viable solution. And another thing that I've noticed with tank play is, especially if you have 2 tanks or you have somebody that likes to go deep, instead of like yelling at that guy for going deep, just go with them. Just commit to them. And like, if they're going to make a bad decision, if everyone as a group makes the same decision, it doesn't always make it a bad decision anymore because you're going as a unit.
Yeah. And you have the chance to turn things around. You never know.
Especially if you're playing like Diva or Winston. Like, I had a team that I literally didn't even enjoy winning with because I had a guy that's like, what tank should I play? I mean, there's a couple like 12, 13-year-old guys that was in my group, and and they're like, what should I play? And I'm like, I don't care what you play. And we were losing, and he's just playing Reinhardt and just going deep. And I was like, okay, just play Winston. You like to go deep, whatever. And then he started getting really, really timid. And I'm just like, all right, Diva, can you hear me? Listen, if Winston goes in, just follow the heck out of him. I don't care if you die. We'll reset. The final lasts like 20 seconds. It'll be no problem. Just follow this Winston wherever he goes. Diva, if you decide it's time to go, Winston, just pay attention to her and go in. And I'm playing Mercy. I'll keep you up the best I can. If you go down, you guys are my highest priority of res, so let's go. You know, or if you're playing Moira, it's like I'll throw an orb in with you guys. Just try to stay with that. Something along those lines. And just use your cooldowns for each other. Just go in together. And the fact of 2 people in a random group of 6 going together and not being distracted by other things and just committing to one thing is more than a lot of the games that you're going to have in lower plat and below, because people don't commit to anything except for what they want to do.
Yeah. And we had that in our notes, and I think that's like probably one of the most important things that we can say here as far as shot calling. It's like the aha moment that like puts you between like the difference between a platinum shot caller and a GM shot caller is making shot calls around your teammates. Like, if you feel like people aren't listening to you, it's because they probably aren't. So if you have a player on your team that's doing something that may be good but in a different situation, follow that teammate. Go with what he's doing. Like he said, if he's a monkey and he's going deep, commit. Make sure you're going deep. And if you and one other person are doing the same thing, that's a third of your team now that are doing exactly the same thing. So it becomes a lot easier to follow for maybe your supports or your DPS if a third of your team now is doing the exact same thing.
And
all right, let's keep it moving.
Well, actually, this was kind of like your next points, right? Don't get distracted, is being flexible and making shot calls based on your teammates. And I think that can be one of the most valuable lessons. And sometimes it takes a minute to kind of like soak this in and get it through. I know that to me, it didn't come right away. I had to play Overwatch for quite some time to eventually start acting on it myself. But making callouts based on what your teammates are doing at the moment can be supremely effective, and it's easier to coordinate sometimes because you're not relying on your teammates to act on what you are doing or your plan that you have in your head, but you're acting on things that they're already doing at the moment. So they almost don't have to join you. They're already doing it. You're joining them, but you're still sometimes leading the charge, or you're still letting them know what your intentions are, what you want to do. And that can become very quickly into a synchronized attack. Like if you have a Winston on your team and you already see him dive on the Zenyatta and your Genji or Tracer, for you, it can be relatively easy to just follow up on that Winston. And sometimes the only thing you have to say is, Winston, I'm with you, keep going. And then he knows, oh, I maybe don't have to back up as soon, or this is going to be a sure kill because I'm getting the backup that I need. Stuff like this.
Especially if you're running Mercy Zenyatta and you're following up with this Winston and giving him damage boost, and he's just targeting whatever he's discorded. Those suckers melt, regardless if they have armor or not. Like, you are ripping through stuff with Winston at that point.
Another easy one is if you see your Roadhog get a hook, for example, you can help him
just change your
quite
entire
a bit.
Game plan.
Yeah, you can help him quite a bit. Like if he hooks a Winston, you can call out real quick, focus Winston, everyone, and throw your things at him. Stuff like this. I don't know. You can do many things based on what your teammates are doing. Do you have any examples, Baemax, for example, from your games?
Hog is a huge one. But the Orisa halts are another huge one. If you see a halt, you know that there's going to be people there in about a second. So that's another good one. Widow and Soldier, you know how they both have the tracer rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can see where they're going, so you know where people on your team are maybe targeting. So if you're looking for a target Discord, or you're looking where to jump next, that's probably a
See
good
what they're
idea.
shooting.
Exactly. So those are really visible ones. You can usually follow your Genji. If a Genji dashes into a fight, it's usually because he thinks he can get a kill. So that's another good place to look.
And throwing Harmony on them, regardless if you can't get the
Absolutely.
Discord off, just to keep them alive, is also good. Again, I'm taking most of this and I'm trying to put a spin on it from a support player perspective.
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
Zenyatta is really good too, but I think usually Zenyatta's are supposed to follow your supports and DPS. But if you're on that position and maybe your team doesn't have the best coordination, then that's a really good thing. Calling out where your Discords are going, calling out where your Harmonies are going, it'll keep people focused.
So let's keep this transition going, because this goes along with making shot calls based on your teammates.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not just based on the team or the elos that you're playing in. This is not the main focus here, but it is something of an aspect that you can do. So Baemax, take it away.
We covered a lot of it, but it's basically just making calls based on what other people on your team are doing. So if maybe you don't like, you're in ladder, so people aren't always gonna agree with what you're doing. But if you can find somebody who's doing something right, or at least something that it could be right, and you're following up on that, and you're letting everybody else know that they're doing that, it can be a little bit more of an effective method to shot call in ladder when people aren't necessarily forced to listen to you. I'm not really sure what you're talking about different tiers though.
I think he was talking about
adjusting...
the next point as well, the last one, and the thing that I think is a really cool one as well. You wrote over here, hype people up. And I think that, honestly, in comms, this is what I was telling you. This is kind of like juju medicine, like that alternative medicine kind of thing. Like, you can't really prove that it works, but there's definitely an effect in there when you are a positive person and a positive influence that is not just making shot calls or straight facts, but when somebody does something good, for example, you're that person that's there congratulating them, being like, good job, man. That was a great grab. Dude, sick shatter, or wow, Farah, that was a nice triple kill. I don't know.
Emong is the king of this, because he just is like, anytime somebody does something good, he has this like meme about him where he's just like, huge. Like, that's good. That's huge.
My roommates think I'm absolutely crazy. I am always screaming anytime anything happens, especially cool plays like Widow headshots or something. You're insane. You're nuts. You're out of your mind.
God.
Like, yeah. And Calvin muted me the other day because I was doing that to him. All my friends sent me the clip on stream of Calvin muting me.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah,
but
I want to follow up a little bit on this, because this happened to me recently. I was playing Anubis. I was like super mega tilted for like 3 days because I had dropped like 200 points. And I had done my placements. I got dropped like 300 points from the previous season. So I was like not exactly in the greatest of mood to be playing ranked. But I was like, okay, I'm going to play Soldier because I don't trust anyone DPSing below a certain level. And that's the first mistake, okay? So the first mistake is playing something that's, you know, somewhat in your wheelhouse, but doing it on the basis of wrong reasoning because you're not giving anyone a chance. So anyways, I'm playing Soldier. We're doing okay. We have a Symmetra and one support, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And the support's Ana, by the way. So we're playing, and push comes to shove. We lose both points. They have like 2.5 minutes. It was actually not too bad of a hold considering everything that happened, because we ended up losing the second point after holding for a really long time due to 2 really solid zoning ultimates from a D.Va and a Winston. So we just lost because of that. And then we go on offense, and this guy locks in Symmetra again. Check this tag. The guy's name's Simbe. So I was like, okay, this is a Symmetra one trick. But I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to play Mercy, and I'm going to support this guy because this guy's an animal. Like, this guy's putting so much work on Symmetra, regardless if we're winning or losing. And we have a Roadhog that's just popping off when he's alive. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to make sure these 2 guys are in the best possible scenarios to win. So every time Roadhog ults, I'm going to damage boost him. And if I'm by Symmetra and she's full, I'm going to damage boost her. And we rolled these guys so hard in that first map. And then just stayed with Mercy, and we did it 2 more times and full held them on point 2 and ended up winning the match. because the shot call was not just telling them something, but switching into something, making a decision, which is a hero switch in that moment, and saying, hey, I'm going to play a specific kind of way with this hero, and you're going to do this. And, or saying, like, I'm going to make sure the Symmetra stays alive, so if you guys die, I'll try to res you, but I'm going to make sure these are my priorities, even if you're a support or you're another tank, something like that.
Yeah. Just letting your game plan be known can be a huge influence.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
And
Cool.
that's like a preventative type of shot calling. It's a little bit different than in the moment type shot calling that maybe you're used to.
Equally useful.
Yeah, and still equally as important too. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the last part of that you kind of touched on is if you're hyping your teammates up, or if you're giving them a good time, like, people are gonna enjoy ladder and you're gonna play better. Like, the name of the game is keeping people from tilting, and I know we're gonna talk about that in a second, but it's keeping people from getting upset and making the game as much fun as possible for yourself, but also the people around you, is gonna make your team just play better when they're in a good mentality rather than trying to get out of the game.
100%. Let's move to that, because there is such thing as bad shot calling, and we touched a little bit before, saying things like you don't want to just outright order people around or boss people around. This type of things can tend to go the wrong way and rub people the wrong way. So when you're shot calling, you do have to have at least a mild touch of people skills, right? You can't just expect everyone to be your minions or an AI that follows your orders, right? At the end of the day, you are dealing with other people. So keeping that in mind and, talking appropriately to them can really go a long way. Take us into a few examples of what bad shot calling can be.
So like you said, well, you're dealing with fragile people when you're playing Overwatch ladders, so you got to be very careful with what you're saying, and especially that should have say qua that how you say it. So the first example we have is like, hey, stop feeding. That's not really information or a shot call, but it's something that we hear a lot in ladder, and
All the time.
I mean, it may be good advice for that person to stop feeding, but at the same time, it's not necessarily a good shot call, because it doesn't really tell that person how to not feed or why they're feeding. It kind of just makes that person feel at least defensive, but probably hurt at the same time. So instead of
it sounds like an attack rather than a suggestion.
Yeah, so instead of saying something like "don't feed," you could say, "Hey, jump quick, so we can catch an early fight," or something like that. Just tell them to jump off the map, or like, "Hey, run into the enemy team and die so we can reset," or something like that.
Or you can be like, "Hey Zen, you're falling a little behind and they're getting to you. Maybe try to stick with us next fight." Or I don't know. There's a million things that you can say to him to maybe try to correct the thing. Do you even know what they're doing wrong? Instead of just telling them like, "Hey, you're feeding." Try to see what they're doing wrong, and maybe if you know, let them know. What are other examples?
And so I'm a tank. So my personal least favorite thing to hear in ladder is, "Hey, press W," or "Press W, guys." That could be, for tanks, could be very frustrating, because especially if you're playing a main tank like Reinhardt or Orisa or Winston, and your shield is just getting burned every fight, and you feel like you're not being supported. It can be very scary to press W. So like, instead of saying press W, you could say like, "Hey Ryan, shield to the left side of the choke, and I'll matrix you, and we'll get through it," or something like that. It's a way better information. It gives your teammate kind of like a goal, but like, most importantly, it makes them feel like they're not alone in that fight, and they're not gonna like just get completely shut down by themselves. So it accomplishes the same thing, but it doesn't accuse them or make them feel bad.
And it makes sense, since tanks are almost like a trustful exercise, right? Especially Reinhardt. You're expected to go into the front line of the fight, hoping that your teammates will be behind you, kind of supporting you and helping you push through. But sometimes that's not the case. And sometimes I see a lot of tanks that are afraid to go through. And this has been because they've been burned in the past, right? Like, they've gone in, and then when they turn around, their team is like drinking tea next door or something. And they're like, what? Where are they?
Or you see your team in the kill cam doing something completely different.
Yeah, exactly. So being there for your Ryan, and not just be telling him like, "Hey Ryan, why are you not moving forward?" Or, "Ryan, go in. It's like, okay, but are you there?
Yeah, it's not a good. That one's definitely is one of the most frustrating things to hear, and it can make people very frustrated, because they'll either go in by themselves or go in something irrational like charging in or something like that. rather than if you had just given them a plan, like, hey, I'm gonna matrix you, or I'm gonna harmony you, or I have a speed boost for you, and stuff like that. They can really like change the momentum of how you guys are going into that fight.
Absolutely. And you also have a couple over here, a few more, and they're all along the same lines. Things like,
Like
why
rapid
did you
fire things
yeah,
not to say.
why
Yeah,
did you do
definitely
that?
correct. No, that
Or that's a trash ultimate, things like that. Or sometimes it gets like super offensive too. Some people really have no mercy in the chat. And like these things can escalate so quickly from just a small comment like this into a full-fledged fight. And I know that we've all been there, guys. We've all been in one of those games where one person makes a snarky comment to another person, and that little thing just happens to take him over the edge. And then they're like, oh, yeah? And a couple of things can happen. Either it turns into a full-fledged comms fight where comms become unusable and you can't even say anything in there anymore because they're just fighting, or one of the persons tilts and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna go Torbjorn, and they go attack Torbjorn. Now you have one less teammate. They're not trying to cooperate with you. Or even worse, they just outright leave the match. That has happened to me before too, where somebody can't stand the other person so much that they're just like, you know what, I'm out of here. And that's just a silly way to lose a match.
Yeah, we have written it's just let it go. Like that's no more words to describe it. It's just let it go. Like it doesn't. You don't. No one needs to hear your opinion on their bad ultimate or their botched whatever. If you let that go, you're on to the next fight. Yeah.
It's important to realize that you're not above or below doing this yourself. Because I know that I find myself in this trap, especially if you get tilted from something completely different and then you end up only communicating your frustrations as an opponent to your allies. That's a problem. Like if you're upset that Roadhog's hooked you 4 times and then you see Zenyatta make one mistake and then you just like jump on that, you're now taking out your frustrations on an enemy and yourself performing poorly to call out one other person for a small mistake they've made once in the entire game.
And then
it's really, really bad.
At the end of the day, what do you gain by doing this, right? What do you gain by trashing on somebody else's gameplay or style or hero pick? You have very little to gain and a lot to lose when you're doing this kind of comments. So for the most part, the best advice I can give you is stick to good communication. Stick just to things, the facts that your team needs to hear. Let them know important information like heroes that are flanking, heroes that are out of position, allies that need attention, ultimates that are coming up, or coordinating your ultimates. Things that can actually have a real implication in the fight, that can actually change the tide of battle by just saying a few things and coordinating here and there. Things that don't do anything for that, there's just no need to say them in comms, especially when you're playing with strangers that you don't know who they are or where they're coming from. So that's kind of just my 2 cents there.
All right, style of microphone use. This is an interesting one, Baemax. Talk about us with the open mic and push to talk.
So this is just a personal preference, but I always use open mic, just because I feel like if you do anything else, like I hear a lot of people use mouse 4 or 5, or they use F. If you do one of those things, you're either messing up your muscle memory for your aim, or you're screwing up your strafing or something like that. So I always use open mic just because you always will say what's on your mind. You always give that shuckle, and you won't lose anything from your actual mechanical performance.
And this one is an interesting one, right? This one doesn't directly pertain to what you should communicate, but it does pertain to how you're communicating it. And I totally agree with you. When you're using push to talk, you are adding extra movements and extra actions in the middle of the fight that you need to do sometimes. And sometimes it doesn't work very well. If you're in the middle of a very important fight, you might feel like you can't press the push to talk button to say something important to your team because you require all of your fingers in the keyboard at that moment. Or the other way around, you might be trying to tell something to your team, but because you had your finger on the push to talk button, maybe you could strafe left or strafe right, and you get killed for some reason. So I definitely agree that if you're trying to play at your top level and you're being very serious, open mic is the way to go. Now, we all know that not everybody who's playing this game is trying to go top 500 or, play ultra competitive. And sometimes, privacy is still a concern. Sometimes people do have other relatives in their house or things that they rather not bother. I know that I've had really nasty coughs in the past that I don't want anybody to be bothered with in the chat. So I just stay on
or not
push to
having a
talk.
good microphone, and
Or
it's like
that.
hearing literally everything outside of your neighbor's lawn, like like the guy 6 blocks over mowing his lawn, like you can still hear it as if he's inside your ear.
So there's definitely a time and place for push to talk, but as far as competitively it goes, open mic is definitely a way to go.
Yeah, if you want to be serious about shot calling, there's really no other option.
Well, there is one thing I learned from PvP Twitch that him and I had talked about off air, which is push to mute. Basically, you go into your settings and you change the push to talk key, whatever you're used to. Just change that to mute. And then I've actually bound the same key to Discord. So when I go into Discord, I mute myself and then I open Overwatch and make sure that Overwatch is unmuted. And then I hit the button and it now unmutes me in Discord and mutes me in Overwatch. So they're basically off and on.
That's fancy. That's real fancy.
And if you want to do it that way, you can communicate with your friends in Discord and mute yourself to your teammates in the game. Or you can just ignore Discord altogether and just use the button to go open mic. And then when you're not saying anything, when you have a free moment, you can mute yourself. And then when you need to say something, you just hit the button once as if it was a keystroke and not something to hold. Because that does mess with your muscle memory. And that's why I've not done it since I switched from World of Warcraft to League of Legends. I just did open mic all the time. And I just didn't care because it was just my friends. But now that I'm in Overwatch, I can't handle that with a shooting game. Like with Warcraft, it's a little bit different. You can kind of just hold down a mouse button or whatever and hit your rotation. But in shooting games, it's a lot harder to push and hold stuff unless you're on console, and I can see that being something okay. But
I think
he said that he used it from console and forward. He's pushed.
It's just because of the nature of the game, right? Like this game requires you to react in milliseconds at times where you're not expecting it. While in some other games, you have a lot more reaction time, so you're not as kind of like pressed for every microsecond that you can squeeze out.
And I don't want to push it too much for sure, but it's just I wanted to give that as another option. So here's some things that we want to talk about, or Baemax wants to talk about when thinking about when you are going to shot call.
Do you want me to rapid fire them?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So important things to think about when you were shot calling, or is what cooldowns you have, what cooldowns your teammate have, like just things that we talked about already. When it's time to enter a fight, when it's time to exit a fight, when it's time to keep going, even or like jumping back onto a point. What ultimates are going to be up for the next fight, what ultimates the enemy just used, what ultimates your team just used. When a person on the other team has overextended, or when somebody on your team is overextended and needs help. What hero needs to be focused on or shot at next. Who needs to be protected next, same kind of thing. When it's time to take a fight quickly, or when it's time to full team regroup. And just in general, keeping track of ultimates that are going to be coming up soon. So like both your team and the other team keeping track of when ultimates are going to show up.
That's a really good list. Honestly, if you guys can listen to that list a couple of times, like go back in your podcast app like 15 seconds and just like listen to that list like 3 or 4 times, that is a good baseline to keep in mind on references in the game that you should know. You should be communicating. You don't always have to be the one who's communicating it. Sometimes some other person in your team does. And this always varies. But to close things off of the conversation too is don't be afraid to shot call either. What we're giving you today is hopefully kind of a little guideline to make those people that are not as comfortable with shot calling start doing it a little more. Remember that shot calling doesn't mean that you have to put the team on your back and you have to make every decision for your team. Shot calling is a group effort, and the more that your team does it, the better off that you'll be. Even if you are maybe a Zenyatta in the back and you like just chilling and hanging out and you don't like saying too many things. Sometimes because of your positioning, you have the best view on the backline, for example. So you're the best person to see a Tracer going around or a Genji or a Reaper kind of going around. And even if you're not saying anything else for the entire game, you're not leading the strategy, you're not doing anything, but you're just every once in a while, hey guys, Reaper flanking left. That's all you needed to say. Now your tanks know they can turn around, help you out, and it can change it out of the battle. And if every player is adding a few comments like this here and there, it doesn't have to be, like I said, the whole match, but just little things that you think are important that your team should know, and you just throw them in there quick and easy, you'll notice that your games go a lot smoother.
Definitely. Can I add one quick caveat? Or,
yeah.
To that? So I promised my girlfriend I would say this, but as for all of the female gamers out there that get a whole bunch of garbage at the beginning of the matches and stuff like that, you get the gamer grill every game. Like, it's really important that you just tell those guys screw off, and you still shot call. You still tell everybody what's on your mind. You have no less reason to be there than anybody else. So I know a lot of people get intimidated, especially female gamers. So
yeah, I've encountered that before as well, especially because some guys can be real a-holes with that kind of stuff.
Same thing for those of you that are young, very young people that do shot calling, get turned off by some people that are just like being jerks.
Oh yeah, we had the Genji player in your guys' Discord was saying that he gets called a squeaker every single game.
Yeah, he said he's an amazing Genji player, but he is young and he has the voice of a young person. So sometimes people don't take him very seriously because of that. And at the end of the day, also, like I said, don't be shot calling so much that you're annoying your team to a point that they're not gonna listen to you.
Or you're
but
taking over.
But if you know that it's important information, just put it out there. It doesn't matter if like these people are being mean or not. It's not about them. It's about you performing well as a player and in your team, and you're just doing the best that you can as a player. And if somebody else is going to be a silly little person and start joking around because of that, then they're being the bad player, not you. And you shouldn't be ashamed to keep shot calling because of them. You do your thing, man or woman.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I think that's going to close it for the shot calling aspect. I'm pulling open a bunch of blue posts, and I'm going to bounce them off of our guest as well as Andres. But the first thing here is the blue post from the movement changes update that actually shipped live this week. So here's a quote from Jeff Kaplan. We're watching feedback to movement changes very closely. The more detailed you can be, like in some of the responses, the better, as it will really help us hone in on what is the intended change versus what is a bug. To be clear, many of the movement changes were made to address long-standing bugs and other movement oddities some of these players never even noticed. For example, previously when moving down a slope or an angle when you're strafing, you were strafing whether you intended to or not. In order to address bugs with heroes such as Reinhardt Doomfist, some of the movement code had to be rewritten. It's obviously some of the most important code in the game, so there are problems. Please help us by providing some specific examples, and we will look into it. Thank you. So I know some people were mentioning this with regards to some new bugs. I know that there's actually a new Riptire bug that PvP again mentioned, which is there's a lingering effect that they said that they fixed on the camera when the Riptire explodes. The lingering effect is actually made worse because of the movement changes bug has like shifted that one out, and so it lingers longer. And second, if you have a mine and a trap down and you explode the Riptire after this camera expires, both of those abilities when they're on the map disappear. And this is all on PTR. This is not live.
Interesting.
It's just some really odd things that are kind of, you're seeing this tiptoe down effect of some of the movement changes, maybe also informing other things that may be completely unrelated but just happen. So just keep that in mind when you're running through stuff. Try to test a lot of different things if you're on PTR and you like messing around with stuff like this. There's another change here. The map and loot box items will be coming together. So this is talking about Blizzard World. My guess, and it's not a promise, just trying to be real, is that the balance changes will drop shortly after. The map items and are already in console certification, but the balance changes have not been submitted, and they're still evaluating them, which means they can still iterate on what we've seen with the Junkrat Mercy changes that we mentioned last week, and we'll probably we'll just go ahead and tackle it now since it overlaps with this. So the Mercy changes were the Valkyrie adjustments of the reduction in speed when you dash, the Resurrect instant being removed, as well as not the bonus Resurrection being in place anymore. So let's talk about this one, and then we'll get into the Junkrat ones. What do you guys think here? Baemax, you're not on the show normally, so you got first crack.
I think it was about time for Mercy. She needed it coming. And then I think that anything that adds like a higher skill cap to the game, like with Junkrat now having to actually aim his conch mine, I think that that's a solid change. So between the two of those, I think they're both just it's been a long time coming.
I think so too. I think that since the Valkyrie changes got announced, her main rework, everybody was kind of surprised that she got so much good stuff, right? Like everything that she got was at first I was like, wait, what? Really? Is that just a bug, or are they testing the limits on the PTR and then they're gonna bring it down? But they never did. That's kind of like how it went. It almost makes you feel like they wanted to rework Mercy almost in an OP way, just so everyone who plays Mercy would be okay with it. And then their plan is to slowly bring her down. Yeah, slowly tone it down as appropriate. But I think that Mercy's still gonna be a great hero. Resurrect is still an incredibly powerful ability, no matter how much you nerf her. Not just having Resurrect even once is very strong. So honestly, I'm happy with the changes. Definitely keeping her more in line, less battle Mercy, less making huge risks with her, and being more of a very smart player and resurrecting when appropriate and not when you're in the middle of the enemy team.
See, there are a couple things that I wanted to mention on this, because there's a lot of people that are at the top tier that are the one tricks. I know I was looking at things from Animetic on Twitter as well as EVA, and I haven't gotten a chance to see what Little Menace thoughts are on this, but a lot of them are just like, Mercy's dead, blah, 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 Mercy's dead. And it's just like, I mean, I played her a little bit this week, and I see what they're trying to get at, if that makes sense. But I think the core here is the identity crisis more than anything with Mercy mains and Mercy itself. Because Mercy's identity is just completely shifting, and that's what they're upset about more so than the actual changes. And I can agree. I mean, if you go and play, let's say you play Mercy for like the last 2 or 3 seasons, and then they start changing it, and it's like every couple weeks, you're actually having to not just relearn Mercy, you have to learn basically a new hero. And this new kit suggestion is probably the tightest on this, as far as how little this actually in fact changes how you would need to relearn the hero, because you still have all of the core abilities. It's just kind of slightly changing the ultimate a little bit more. It's making you easier to be killed, which is the hardest thing right now. Like, you see people in Overwatch League playing Mercy, and how do you counter Mercy? You play Deadeye and you play Widow, and like those are the only things people can do to actually combat this issue. Or playing Junkrat and hoping that she dives on a trap. You know, like, you have those things too. But it's like, Mercy's big issue is that she's so mobile, she's actually difficult for upper echelon tier of play to actually shoot her. I think that's actually a problem. I think she needs to be more easy to be shot out of the air, especially with her survivability passive just constantly ticking.
I think it definitely is. Like when you have Mercies flying across the best hit scan players in the world, just literally in their face, and then there's nothing that they can do about it, even though they're using everything they got against it. I think that's slightly a problem too. And I think that allowing her to resurrect so easily in the middle of that mayhem is a little bit of a problem as well. When Roadhog got nerfed, when his hook got nerfed, for example, everybody freaked out, right? Everybody was like, oh my God, the hook is dead. Roadhog is useless. He'll never be the same. But we've seen him in the league already. We've seen guys like Taimu just destroy with Roadhog. But the thing is, people just had to adapt to the hook, right? Use it slightly differently. You can still one-shot with a hook a lot of characters, but a lot of the time you are relying on your team helping you out, and you can even use it in situations that are unexpected. Taimu had one of the best plays in the tournament versus Dynasty on Junkertown, when on the last point he hooks a transcending Zenyatta and then uses his whole hog to push him into the back of the point, basically neutralizing the transcendence and getting him off the point. And I thought it was such an amazing play that he
1000
did.
IQ play.
Dude, 1000 IQ play. Like, that was such a good understanding of the game and a creative way to use abilities that Resurrect can become that too. But it just has to be a little different. If you want to resurrect somebody in the middle of the enemy team, maybe you can't just go by yourself. Maybe you need like your Winston and your Junkrat to jump in with you, blow a grenade, put down the shield, and then buy you 2 seconds to resurrect something.
Yeah.
But
And
that's not needed
also,
right now because it's so easy to resurrect.
to kind of get this back on the actual like changes, is they're finally making Valkyrie about something instead of making it about everything. And what I mean by that is Valkyrie is like heal everyone, damage boost everyone, like really, really efficiently between the two. Or you can switch out to your pistol and go full, like in on the battle Mercy type thing. I mean, we saw it with one of the control maps with Houston Outlaws getting killed by the Mercy on Philadelphia, got a triple kill just from finishing kills off of the Winston, and they capped the point, and it was pretty nutty. But what happens in those two scenarios is Mercy's going all in on one of those two things, you know, the damage boosting and the healing, or the full shooting. And the thing is, you're giving her both of those things and also allowing her simultaneously to get 2 resurrects at any point in time during a 20-second sphere, which is just nuts. And on top of that, like 20 seconds is probably the longest benefit that you're going to get of anything in the game. So they're putting that down to 15 seconds. And I think that is the best part of the change for sure, is reducing the overall time of Valkyrie. And second was the shift in taking it so that Resurrect is always the same thing and it's just a cooldown that isn't modified is the biggest gig. Because Resurrect is so powerful that it should just permanently be on a 20 or 30-second cooldown and should never be touched. The only thing that people are saying that I think is somewhat valid is letting it get just a reset on the cooldown if you pop Valkyrie. I think that's okay, considering that you're removing the instant cast to it, because you have to go all in on the Resurrect at that time period. You know what I mean? Like you're sacrificing a lot of other things, your positioning, and all of the benefits of Valkyrie in order to get a free charge of it.
Yeah, so it's interesting
I can
that
kind of
they
see you
do
weighing your options there.
It's interesting they do so many changes at once because, yeah, you can't test things like the one you just said, for example.
So what do you guys think about it now that I bring it up in kind of a different way? Is there any other additional thoughts that you have, maybe Baemax, on that?
I think that it's fair that she would get the reset. I think that that's a reasonable balance change. I think that at this point she's going to be easy enough to kill. If she pops it, it's going to be like what Pharah used to be when she popped her ultimate. It's going to be pretty easy to shoot her down if she's just flying around slowly in the air, kind of thing. So I think that that's pretty reasonable. And I think that they already nerfed her enough with she can't res instantly. I think that that's the huge problem with it.
Yeah,
she
that's
shoots
the main
down
thing.
straight down into a fight and then shoots straight back up. I think that that's a little bit more of the ridiculous part of it, not necessarily that she can just bring 2 people back to a fight. Because if she sacrifices her life for somebody else, then that's a decision that she made rather than guaranteeing that you're going to be back up. But I've been talking to some Mercy mains I know, and they said they don't think she's down and out. I think people are being.
I don't think she is either.
I think that she's still going to have, you know, the
Valkyrie is so good. Like, yeah, that ability
like having
is nuts.
a Zenyatta Discord on every hero. It's pretty insane. I don't think that there's any way that can ever not be a powerful tool.
Yeah, and Resurrect's still really powerful, even if it has a cooldown and it's not instant.
Mercy about that anymore. You know what I mean? Like it can be about that. It can be about safe mistakes that you can kind of redirect into the same venue, but it's like, you shouldn't be able to just arbitrarily bring somebody back to life after making a huge error and not have something that you have to pay for that. You know what I mean? Like, exactly. You have to pay mobility for that. Or you have to pay time.
That's verbatim what I was going to say. Mercy's res should not be erasing mistakes. It should be either tempo or it should be like a tactical play that you're making rather than just, this person.
A strategic decision rather than an oops button.
Yeah,
yeah.
Exactly.
such a huge move needs to have some sort of a drawback. It can't just be a freebie like it is right now.
All right, let's grab a couple more things here. Shoot, where did it go? Feedback. Oh yeah, again, remember this can still be iterated on because it's not even hit the licensing of the consoles yet, and that's the big thing. Is usually when they send it to consoles for the licensing, they put it on PTR, and when the licensing goes through, it goes live to everybody. That's kind of the traditional thing that they do for these type of things. But there was a question about if the new stuff is not Blizzard World related for the loot boxes or new things that are coming to the game. And he says, as a matter of fact, the whole range of items, not just skins, so that means highlight intros, emotes, and sprays, are also going to be new and not before seen. I even saw the Overwatch Central put together a video where they talked with Kaplan about this before he responded on, or maybe after he responded on the forums. And so if you guys like Blizzard things, then you're going to be loving what's coming. And then the follow-up question was, is every hero getting something, or are only some of them getting, or some of them will get nothing? And he says, there's stuff for all heroes, but not all of it is the same tier. Some will get legendary, some will get epic. A lot of will be based off of who has gotten stuff recently and who hasn't. And also how many items those heroes have in those particular categories. So please, no more legendary Tracer skins.
Give us a Doomfist skin. Give us a Doomfist skin.
Dude, the Black Hand Doomfist is one of my favorite skins in the game.
That does look
so
very
good.
cool. Yes, I agree.
And I cannot wait to not be a Roadhog player and still want that Diablo Butcher skin, because that is amazeballs. All right. I think that's going to wrap it up. We got a lot more things here that we could cover. If you guys want to, we can talk a little bit more about the Junkrat changes. I feel like we covered it a little bit better, even though we mentioned it in short. I think Baemax covered it. It's just good. Junkrat's damage output is so fast that he doesn't need more help. So what they're trying to do is balance that around accuracy. And I think that's a pretty good thing, because he's a projectile hero. If you can be more accurate with how you're doing things, people like Jake that are really, really good at this in Overwatch League are still going to be doing all the damage. They just have to wait a little bit longer for the mine.
Mm-hmm.
But Andres, did you have anything that you wanted to follow up on that?
No, I think
Before we close the show?
I think the changes are good. Like you said, they're trying to make Junkrat's mine a little bit, rely more on accuracy and be a little less lenient. Right now, it just covers a huge ground and it does the same amount of damage in the whole area. So what they're trying to make is that the center of the grenade or the center of the explosion will deal the full damage. The outer part of the explosion will do less. So, you know, less spam rat and hopefully less kills by just some random grenade that wasn't even well aimed or wasn't even supposed to get you, but still dealt
mine.
Or mine, yeah, an incredible amount of damage. I think it's a good change. But yeah, let's close it out.
Oh, all right. Sorry, I found the last thing I was looking for when I had that brain fart. Here it is. Can we get more info on what you guys are planning to do with heroes that are not doing well? Symmetra, Sombra, May, and Torb. Plus, what's going on with the new scatter? Kaplan says we're experimenting with Hanzo today. This was 2 days ago, and but all of the changes are a ways off. They still are not happy with things right now, and they want to make sure that they are before they ship it to PTR or discuss things outside of the internal testing team. So we are a little ways off, but Hanzo is getting looked at currently, and they are working on things internally right now. All right, that's going to do it for the show. I want to go watch some Boston Mayhem Boston versus Mayhem. Boston Mayhem would be pretty nutty, though, if you combine those rosters. But let's close the show. We got some people to thank over iTunes. If you guys would love the show, you can give us an iTunes review. That seriously helps us so much. Even though we have tons of iTunes reviews, it's more about like the week-to-week support, if you can. It helps us get vision, helps people find us, helps people see that we're in the higher tiers of the charts. When people search Overwatch, they'll find us even faster. So special thanks to Homestead G, Sonia... Letisa, I don't know, Letsia, Kyle Kaz, and Vilnix on USA. Thank you so much for your iTunes reviews. You guys are great. Thank you so much.
It's Leticia.
Leticia, there we go. Our resident Colombian has got my back.
I got you.
All right. To close out here, if you guys want to find the show, best ways to go is omniclab.com/links. You can find everything there. If you want to join the Discord, it's discord.me/omniclab. You can come join in the discussion. You can hang out with Baemax. You can ask him for some shot calling advice. I don't know, maybe. You can hang out with people like Bardock for talking about the AIM guide that we put together last week. And you can even check out our voice channels and watch some Overwatch League with some friends. And if you want to talk with us any other way, just check out that links link on our website, and you can find anything else. We got merch. We've got live streams. Andres is streaming Overwatch. He's doing stuff with Overwatch League recap. Also, I got a quick shout out for Watchpoint Radio. Thank you guys so much for having me. Blaze and Bob invited me to go hang out with those guys, so I'm up on their feed on one of their more recent episodes if you want to go check that out. And I also was pleasure of joining Gilfrost and the High Noon Around the Payload with Blevins and Deathblow, and that was a lot of fun. I actually ended up, spoiler alert, I ended up winning. So I got like one more point than Gilfrost, and I was like really, really happy.
Nice.
So I got really lucky by paying Blevins off before the show. I mean, strategically making good decisions. So you guys can check that out on the feed. Andres, where can people find you on the interwebs?
If you want to find me, you can look me up on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. And you can also find me doing my other podcast covering the Overwatch League, the Overwatch League Recap, or OWL Recap for short. Also, next week, you can find me on Around the Payload as well. I'll be guesting this week with the Blevins and Deathblow, and I think he has two very, very special guests lined up. I don't know if I'm allowed to speak in that behalf yet, so I'm going to keep it quiet, but I will say they are some really cool guests, so stay in tune with In Touch to hear all about that.
And Baemax, you can promote yourself or any of the organizations you are currently wanting to promote, so go ahead.
Awesome, absolutely. So if you want to find me on Twitter, I'm just at Lucas Selman, LucasSelman, or you can find me on Twitch. It's at Baemax_OW. And then if you guys are looking for any representation, VOD reviews, or anything like that, feel free to add me on Discord and send me a message. We'll be more than happy to look over your stuff or help your team find their next tournament or matchup. That's it for me.
Awesome. I think that's going to do it for the show. Remember, guys, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist, and don't give bad information. We'll see you guys in your shot calling next week. Adios.
Thanks to everyone in the chat, especially Nick the Guy. You're active the entire chat, my man. Thank you for coming, and thanks for the sub. We really appreciate that, especially now that we're trying to be more active with the stream and take it off the ground. It really means a lot to us, man. It really means a lot to us.
I have nothing more to teach you. The rest you must learn for yourself. Walk in harmony, my student.
Okay.